Some people, they lock the door, and if you don't have OCD, you're probably like, I just flip the lock and I keep it moving. That's just how, what are you talking about? You lock the door. How many times you got to lock it? That's what most people think, right? The people who have OCD might have to lock it, flip it back, lock it again, flip it back. They do it a certain amount of times just so in their head, it's like they reassure themselves that they did it right. So that's one compulsion. Often people who have OCD could take an hour or 2 or 3 just to like prepare for bed because you have to go through all this series of compulsions in order to just lay down and rest. Before you do that, you got to make sure the stove is off. You got to make sure everything's unplugged. You got to make sure, did you leave the charger plugged in the kitchen? You got, like, what's the deal? Is the bathroom faucets off? You double check that. You could basically waste hours and hours every day, which is why I say it's extremely destructive and very harmful and something you need to get a hold of. The first step is realizing how bad it is. In other words, wasting any time at all is you basically locking yourself up, just as if you went to prison. You're locked up for a period of time, and that just gets removed from your life. If you do certain drugs, you wind up potentially dying early. Depends, like you cut your life short because they're very harmful to you. There's the same kind of thing. If you're doing an OCD bunch of behaviors, you're just basically, you're cutting off years of your life. When you add up all the time it takes, you're cutting years off. Also, you're just diminishing what you can accomplish on a day-to-day basis, and your brain that could be used towards forward progress or learning or just treating people well or thinking about other people. What could I do to make their life better? How can I help? Instead of all those things, you have no time because you're forced to do these ridiculous compulsion things that you force yourself to do. So the way I think about this is it's so multifaceted, but the very first thing, and this is what I touched on yesterday, it comes down to not trusting yourself. You have to realize that it's something that happened to you, some trauma, and it doesn't even really matter what it is. So that's the thing I think people kind of misstep on sometimes is they will go to therapy for, as long as they, just forever potentially. A lot of them go for years and years looking for the magic answer. But in my opinion, finding the magic answer won't solve this problem. This is a problem of untrust within yourself. You mistrust yourself. You can't really rely on yourself. That's what your brain is telling you. Now, I'm not saying that that's true. It's actually not rooted in any real truth. It's you can't trust yourself because of something. Maybe something you did in the past has caused it, or maybe not. Maybe that's been beaten into your head by family members or teachers or whoever. I mean, it could literally be, your siblings, it could be anyway, your friends, people in your life who claim to be your friends and whoever, whatever it is. It could be beaten into you that you're not worth anything or that you think you're not valuable, you're not good, you're not smart, you're not capable, whatever it is. And sometimes we do that to ourselves. It doesn't have to come from an external force either. It could come from you. Just, wanting something and never really being able to put into action the steps that it would require in order for you to not just say you want it, but really do the things that when people want something, they do, which really means go over and above what you ever thought you had to do, because that's what people do who really want something. They don't quit, but more than that, it's a daily thing that they're choosing to work harder rather than take the easy way out, lay on the couch, watch TV, flip through shorts, whatever they're doing. It's easy to think you want something, but if you're spending every minute where you can take a break by taking a break, then you really don't, I'd say, want it as badly as you think. You might really want something, but you're not willing to put the work in to do it. And as a result, you can't really trust yourself because you say you want it. You even think you want it deep down, but Every time it comes down to it and you're tested, you fail because you'd rather sit on the couch and do nothing. You'd rather, not do the thing that would maybe take you forward, which is usually more work. You'd rather not do that, work in any facet. Even with things people love, they have a tendency sometimes to rather do other things. And that's a moment of test on what you're willing to accomplish, how much work you're going to put in, and you choose the other thing. That could cause you to not trust yourself too. So whatever the reason why you don't trust yourself, what I found is that non-trust has been built up over a long time. Just like compulsions, they increase. They start with one, and maybe it kills 5 minutes. And then eventually, if you keep this up, letting yourself do the rechecks, letting yourself redo things, you will eventually be up to an hour or two of compulsions every day, which adds up to years off your life if you do it for long enough. So the way I think about it is you have to literally, one compulsion at a time, force yourself not to do it again. You have to look at it like it's an absolute must. Your life depends on it. The fact that you flip this switch once and you don't flip it again. You lock the door once and you don't do it again. The minute you give in to that, no matter how many days you've gone by doing the correct thing, by forcing yourself to just do it once, you're going to lose all that progress. That's why it's really similar to being an addict. Because as an addict, I used to smoke tons and tons of weed, tons of it. I mean, I felt like I needed it to just maintain a normal day. I would, morning, noon, and night for a long time, years. And what I realized was I am an all or nothing person because I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. I've mentioned that in the past. So if I decide I'm going to smoke, I can't just smoke once. Moderation isn't a thing for some people. We just can't do it. We're either all in or we don't do it. So what I realized is I had to really own up to the fact that this isn't helping me, which means taking accountability for the fact that I'm taking this easy way out to feel better because I'm not making myself feel better through my actions. I need this drug to make me feel better. And as a result, it's preventing me from doing the work to feel better because why would I need to? All I got to do is take this. Now I feel better. It's an easy fix. It's always there. It's always right. That's why people do it, because it's easy. But anything like this applies as the same. So what I basically realized was this isn't helping. And now that I know it's not helping, it's hurting. It's hurting me to do this. So once I realized that, I unequivocally decided I'm not going to do it anymore, which means if I do it once, I'm back doing it every day. So I cannot do it even once. Never here or there. I can't let the thought come in even after 6 months of sobriety, a year, 2 years. I can't ever entertain the idea that I'll just take one toke of something. Can't do it. Because as soon as I do it, now all of a sudden, everything will go back to the way it was because that's my personality. So what I realized was it's just like that for compulsions. It's exactly the same. As soon as you let yourself think, you give in to the idea that I need to lock this again. I got to make sure I did, because if I don't, then all hell's going to break loose. So I can't not check it. As soon as you give in to that on one thing, you now have an extreme likelihood of giving into that on 20 more things. The rest of the list of compulsions that have built up. So once you make it a point to realize that this is hurting you, it's taking your life away, it's shortening your lifespan. Once you realize that, I don't want to go to prison. I'm not trying to get locked up. So the point is, that's what I'm doing. I'm locking up myself for a certain amount of years until I kick this, whenever it is. So once I put this all together and I know that it's coming from a lack of trust in myself, you have to force yourself. All the things that you already know you do over and over and over again, one time with the switch, you force yourself. You force yourself like we would force ourselves to get to the top, If we were drowning, you'd force yourself to get to the top where you could breathe. You get to break through the water so you could take a breath of air, because you'd be dying if you didn't. And you were trying to, you're underwater, you're drowning. That's really what it is. So if you realize that you would force yourself to get to the top to breathe, it's the same thing. You have to force yourself to hit the switch once and not do it again, and realize your life does depend on it. Realize if you're not, you're in jail, you're in prison, you're locked up. There's like no middle ground. You force yourself not to do the compulsion, and then that one thing you'd force yourself not to do will then lead to another moment for something else. You force yourself not to do it again. And then the next time you get to something, you force yourself to look at it once and know you did it right and move on. You force yourself through that like your life depends on it, because every day you do that, you build a little trust within yourself. And then ultimately, one day, you won't even think about doing these things multiple times. You'll be back on a return to normalcy, back to the way you were at one point in your life before you ever had these compulsions. The compulsions are vicious. They will take your life over, and the only way to stop them is to commit to getting rid of all of it, cold turkey, all of it, because the one compulsion you give into, that's it. You're right back to doing all of them. It will erase your progress. So that's why this is so hard. It's an everyday thing, but every day you do that successfully, you build a little more trust within yourself that you didn't need to check it, because guess what will happen? The world won't have ended if you don't check it. The world's not going to end if you don't give in to your compulsions. And once you realize that, it'll get easier and easier. Compulsions are bad habits. It's just like any other bad habit. Like anything you could think of that's a bad habit, you must break the bad habit. There's no middle ground of breaking it. And if there is, I don't want to know about it, because that doesn't work for me. It never did. And I bet you a lot of people out there are like me. I got this kind of mentality definitely from my mother. Very strong-willed person, extremely strong-willed. If something was going to get changed, like let's say all of a sudden, there was a leak somewhere, and it was, a little bit of water getting in something. It could potentially wait for another day or two. No, we're doing it today. We're cleaning that whole place out today, right now. And it would always upset me growing up. It would piss me off, because no matter what else was planned or what was going, now we got to do this. But in hindsight, I realized the power of that kind of mentality. It's, if we have to make a change, we're doing it now. If you're going to change your life, you don't wait till tomorrow. It's not about tomorrow. It's about today. If you decide you're going to eat healthy and work out, you start right now. You don't wait. There's never waiting. Even if you can't go to a gym or whatever, you do the push-ups and the sit-ups. You start on the habit that you want to change your life. You start immediately, the minute you feel like you need to. You don't wait. Yesterday I said it, and I'll probably say this a couple more times throughout the times I make videos, but delay is a form of failure. It's absolutely a form of failure. You'll never feel ready to do anything that you want to do. There's never a moment where all of a sudden you feel ready. The people who have succeeded in life, achieving something they wanted, who really live every day, and they fight fear, and they do everything that we all really want to do, they've all never felt ready when they did whatever. They had to not feel ready, but they did it anyway. The path gets uncovered before you as you move forward. So when it comes to something like this that's so destructive, first realize how bad it is. And if you don't realize it yet, here's a way that you could realize it. I want somebody in your life who's a loved one of yours, they probably have seen you do these behaviors, and you insist on doing them, but you don't see what it looks like. I want you to tell them to imitate you, and you watch what it looks like. Just watch what it looks like for them to do these ridiculous behaviors that you've built up on something that you think you have to do. And if that doesn't make you sad, watching them go through it, because what happened to me when I had somebody do that was I felt bad. Like, I don't want this for them. I can't imagine what it would be like if they had this going on. That would be terrible. What it reminds me of is of somebody who's lost their mind, like, who's like homeless on the streets of Manhattan, living in the subway, like just walking around in circles, talking to themselves. Like anybody who's a human being, you feel bad when you see that. It makes you, it's like, it's heartbreaking. And that's what you would feel like if you saw your loved one doing it. And if you don't have anybody in your life, videotape it. Videotape yourself doing the actions. And that might make you see how crazy it is. And then you realize you don't need to be that way. There's hope for you. There's hope for you if you can just realize you have the power to change instantly. Today, you have the power. All you must do is stop the first one. Don't let yourself repeat it and watch the world's not going to end. Then the second one, and do it all on the same day if you can. In other words, everything you can think of that you repeat, don't. That one day, just you got to force yourself not to. It's going to be hard. The things that you forget that just happen so much for you that there's such a habit, oh man, I forgot that thing. I can't, it's almost like a mistake when it happens. Those are the things you'll catch tomorrow. So you don't have to beat yourself up, but you got to every single time take note that you're not going to go back, that you're going to actually live your life the way it was before the trauma started to rear its ugly head. Because I also think people who have that kind of thing, it was probably always in you, but you kept it at bay for a long, long time. And then for some reason, it came out because of some trauma or some incident or something. And I'm not diminishing your trauma. A lot of people feel very connected to their own trauma. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter what the reason is. It doesn't matter exactly why. Just realize you're doing a behavior that is really taking your life away. And once you realize that and you realize how bad it is, maybe you'll have the strength to force yourself not to redo something that day and hopefully everything that day. And if you do that for enough days, you're golden. If you do it for 2 days and then you repeat one thing, and this is how it'll happen, like a devil on your shoulder masquerading as an angel, it will tell you, just one time, just check that one time. Just just make sure the stove is off, because if it's not and there's a problem, then your instinct will have told you to do it, and it will be your fault. It's like your conscience is trying to mask it. It's not even your conscience. It's this devil on your shoulder masquerading as your instinct, masquerading as your conscience, trying to foresee and predict a problem and control every outcome around you. It's the need for control. You got to let go of that. You are only in control of your own actions. You're not in control of what happens in the world. That's not up to you. You must trust yourself to move through life and actually get to a point where you could be happier than you are. You got to move through life. That kind of thing just holds you there. And while your brain is so fixated on that, you're half as productive. You're half as intelligent. You're half the person you could be. You're irritated because inside there's this gaping irritation in your brain because you keep rubbing this spot of, I got to fix this. I got to make sure it doesn't need to be that way. Take your life back and take full control of your brain back. Start today. One set of things you always do, don't do them, and try to make it everything with all your might, and do that for enough days. I'm telling you, a couple months of that, you won't even remember that you used to do shit. You'll forget. Because that's what's happening with me is the more I would force myself not to do stuff, the more I realized I never needed to do it anyway. The world didn't come down. Nothing terrible happened because I didn't power everything off before I left, or nothing terrible happened because I didn't lock the freaking door 6 times. You can do it too. I believe in you. I believe in the power of the mind. 1000%. It's stronger than that devil on our shoulder, that conscience that creeps in and pretends to be our instinct and just wants to hold us in place. I'm telling you, you can accomplish more than you are. Get rid of the bullshit behaviors. You guys got this. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. Take it easy.